I'm joined now by Republican Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee. He serves on the Oversight and Homeland Security Committees. He's also a U.S. Army veteran. Congressman, we appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Thanks, Jim, for having me on the show.
So you, of course, served in Iraq. You famously met Saddam Hussein after his capture there. Right. I'm curious how concerned you are about what seems to be brewing as a low-level conflict between the U.S. and Iran there. You have these strikes. You have the U.S. blaming Iran for attacks by this militia on U.S. Soldiers based there. You had the shoot down of the U.S. drone, the attack on Saudi oil facilities. I mean, what's your degree of concern right now?
Well, I'm very concerned, obviously. It's a huge issue. Iran's probably been America's clearest enemy since at least 1979. If you look at their constitution, the Iranian constitution actually says that the country exists. The purpose of the nation is global domination. These actions are expected. I know when we first got in and secured Iraq, immediately Iranian proxies were waging war against American soldiers, and we know that at least 500 plus were killed by these armor-piercing IEDs that they invented to fight coalition forces. So, I mean, they're an enemy, and they've been an enemy since they seized the embassy in Tehran.
Yeah, and I remember U.S. forces there specifically blamed Iran for the deaths of U.S. soldiers on the ground due to those IEDs. I wonder, as you see the Iraqi government there, which of course is a U.S. ally, the U.S. has troops deployed there to protect the government. When they say, hey, you violated our sovereignty, where do you see the Iraqi government's loyalty today? Because of course the concern is that they're getting very close to Iran.
Absolutely. You know, that was a big concern from the very beginning when we went into Iraq, is that the theocracy in Iran would sort of work its way through insurgency coin-type operations into the Iraqi government, and that may be the case. I mean, we need to be very careful as we move forward with that.
Another topic, if I can, this in the Ukraine scandal, particularly as we're preparing likely for a Senate trial here. The New York Times reporting today of an interesting Oval Office meeting where you had the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, then National Security Advisor John Bolton, and the Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, all lobby the president directly to release the hold on military aid to Ukraine. As you know, the principal Republican defense in the impeachment inquiry in the House was, well, there's no direct line to the president here, insufficient evidence. If the president didn't order the aid hold, why were his senior advisors going directly to him to try to get that aid hold lifted?
Sure, I would expect those guys to share their opinions with the president. I'd also expect them to walk out and, either execute the president's wishes or, just maybe even leave if they disagreed with the president. But, the point here, at least from Tennessee's perspective, is if the President of the United States asked Ukraine to investigate, and I think you and I have actually had this conversation before, if the President asked Ukraine to investigate the former Vice President and whether or not he used his position to get his son millions of dollars in lucrative contracts, down here in Tennessee, the vast majority of people are completely fine with that. So it's a non-issue from the beginning.
But you know the law. As a sitting member of Congress, you know the Constitution. The Congress appropriates funds. And his own advisors, Mick Mulvaney, was being told it would be illegal for the White House to stop aid that Congress in a bipartisan vote had passed. I know the people at home might not consider it a big political issue, but the law says otherwise, doesn't it?
But the aid happened. I mean, the aid happened. It was turned back on, and absolutely, it was turned back on, and Ukraine did nothing to get it turned back on. So I'm not sure there's really an issue here. I don't see it.
Well, I get the political argument, and I know that a lot of Americans have tuned out on this, but you're a sitting member of Congress, you're a veteran, you respect the role of Congress here. I wonder if you're concerned about the precedent, that a future president, whether Republican or Democrat, could say, I don't care what both houses of Congress passed through a bipartisan vote. I think otherwise. I mean, that's not the way the Constitution's written, is it?
No, absolutely not. And the president should do, if we pass, that aid should be spent, it should be spent. I totally agree. If he holds it to make sure that the money is going to be spent as we need it to be spent, I don't have a problem. Communicate back with us, make sure that we're informed, and I don't have a problem with that.
Understood. I just have some news here because you're probably aware that President Trump and Putin spoke by phone yesterday, and the Kremlin had its own readout of the call. We didn't get this until just now, 24 hours later. It says that Putin called Trump to thank him for information regarding a terrorist attack in Russia. Both presidents continue to support counterterrorism. And the president also discussed state of relations between the U.S. and Russia. I just wonder, from your perspective, do you consider Russia an adversary of the U.S., a dangerous adversary?
Absolutely, they're an enemy. I mean, I agree with many people who've said that. You look at what's happening in Crimea. I mean, they are still there. But I will say this: the lethal aid that the president authorized with Zelensky has put Zelensky and Putin at the ceasefire negotiation table. So, I mean, I do see them as an enemy, but I think the way our president's handling them is the right way to do it. It's like with North Korea. I mean, he sat down and talked to those guys, but they're still technically an enemy.
Congressman Mark Green, we wish you and your family a happy holidays and a happy 2020.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you
very much, and we'll be right back.